So I think I talked about this case once briefly. I don't know if you guys remember hearing about Madeline Soto. She's a 13-year-old girl who was living in the Orlando area, I think in Kissimmee or something. And she lived with her mother. Her mother rented out rooms in their apartment townhouse thing. It's in an apartment complex, but my understanding was it's actually like a 2-story townhouse. The mother was dating this man named Stephan Sterns, and he had been dating the mom, not dating the mom, but always remained close. Then one day, Stephan drops Maddie off at school. She never comes home. The school calls the mom, like, yo, where is she? And mom calls the police. Search ensues. They end up finding her body dumped somewhere. And Stephan Sterns was the last person to see her as he dropped her off, right? So they started looking into him. Well, as it turns out, when the police were doing their investigation, he handed them their phone. He let them look through the phone, all this stuff, right? The phone, if you guys recall, the phone had been accidentally factory reset just after midnight, the night that Maddie went to sleep and or allegedly went to school. They also found footage out of like the apartment complex's surveillance video that when Maddie was in the car, she looked like she was like slumped over, sleeping, drugged, something like that, right? Like unconscious. So when the police looked through his phone initially, like there's nothing in there because he just did a factory reset and he specifically did not log back into his Gmail account. So here's what happens if you have an Android, which if you don't have an Android, you need to switch, okay? Because Apple's out here giving everyone every detail of everything. Stop with that shit, move to Android. Okay, so on your Android phone, you can have several Google accounts, of course, as many Gmail accounts as you want, whatever. When you get a new phone, you just log into that Gmail account, that Google account, and like all your shit will populate in the phone, everything that was related to that account. And it'll almost be as if you didn't do a factory reset, right? Unless you had stuff that was saved to the phone. But as long as you were using that Google Cloud, then it's real easy. You just put in your Gmail account, boom, all your stuff is up. But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. In 24-hour span almost, he did not re-sign in. He factory reset, but did not re-sign in. Now, as an Android phone user myself, I find that to be incredibly odd. It is really hard to even kind of use your phone or have any kind of quality experience without a connection to that account. So then the cops end up keeping his phone, rushing to the Cellbrite guy, downloading the data, and then finding Sterns' cloud. In his cloud are thousands, not 10, not 15, not 100, not 400, of photos of him and Maddie, or him or Maddie, or anything like that, where she is being compromised. It is believed that there is a link between those photos and I think videos to an underground child sex video watching gross rape. Mind you, during the course of the investigation, they found out that the mother of Maddie would often sleep downstairs in her own bed and allow her 13, well, she had just turned 13, so 12, allow her 12, 11, 10, 9, 8-year-old daughter to sleep in a bed with this grown man who is not her father. A grown man who is not her father is sleeping in a bed with her every night. He had moved back to his parents in another town, but he kept continuing to visit there where they were staying so that Maddie could sleep better. So Stephan Sterns has public defenders. One of them's really good, one of them's really bad. The public defenders have made a suppression motion and an argument that the obtaining of the phone was illegal, and therefore all the evidence that came after the illegal possession of the phone is fruit of the poisonous tree and needs to be excluded at trial. So in this case, in contrast to Diddy, if they can't play the Cassidy video on Diddy, I think they still have enough evidence. In this case, I don't know why they bifurcated his trial. So this trial is about the child, nasty, horrible, disgusting stuff. And then the next trial in September is the capital murder charge. I will be going to the September trial, all right, or at least part of it. This trial I'm not going to go to because the judge actually just extended it way out to June. All right. So in this case, this is the child, nasty, pictures and videos. We don't do that shit. We don't even say that shit out loud here. We'll say shit, but we aren't. Ugh. I told my daughter, some man does like that to you, I'm finding him. He is digging the basement that I will then proceed to torture him in. That's it. Don't touch my baby. These predators, they go after moms who aren't like me, right? Like This mom, Madeline's mom, she was using Xanax and this. Like, she's one of those people that has a bad day and goes to the psychiatrist and they give her drugs, right? Like, she's on every psychiatric pill, like everything. She's not a mom like me. A mom like me, I don't think a predator is going to try to prey on me because it ain't going to work. But there are moms out there who are really wrapped up in their mental issues or whatever it is. And, you know, maybe they're not strong enough. They don't have the esteem, whatever. That is this situation. That is who that man preyed on. Okay. So in this case, without that cloud file that has an overwhelming amount of evidence on it, and I'm talking thousands, overwhelming, like on their face, you did this. Without that, the prosecution really doesn't have much of a case. Okay. So the prosecution is going to really fight hard to keep that evidence in, and the defense is going to fight hard to get that evidence out. So they had their suppression hearing this week. I was actually a commentator on Fox 35 Orlando yesterday, and we talked about this hearing, and we're going to watch a little bit of an excerpt from the hearing. Okay, here we go. This is one of the cops that was at the house. This is the one that took the phone. This woman can amazingly speak without moving her mouth. Like, she's a natural ventriloquist. It is fascinating to me. Here we go.
February of 2024, what was your assignment?
I was assigned to the sex crimes unit.
Are you still assigned to that particular unit now?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been in that unit?
3 years and 2 months.
Were you working in your capacity as a detective in that unit on February 27th of 2024?
Yes.
Did you become involved in the investigation into the missing juvenile named Madeline Soto?
Yes.
How did you
Oh, she's moving her mouth right now.
I was tasked to assist the primary detective at the time, Detective Hunt, with canvassing.
Barely moves his damn lips.
Do you hold the phone in a way to allow others to see what is on the phone?
Yes.
Where is Mr. Sterns at as you are looking at the phone?
Directly standing next to me.
And initially, the interaction and how the cell phone comes out, you bring up looking at maps in the phone.
Correct.
Are you familiar?
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. At this point, Sterns is a suspect, right? I don't know that he was necessarily detained, but his attorneys actually get into that. This woman did tell him to stay out of his car and to stay nearby. So he certainly had a feeling of being detained. If you've seen my videos about those type of things, if you are detained, you now have a right to an attorney and all of your constitutional rights kick in, which means that she needs either your permission or a warrant to search your phone, right? So in this particular case, they are searching, they're searching. Sterns certainly felt like he was being detained and like he had no choice in the matter. And that's a point that we'll see the defense kind of argue.
Familiar with the type of phone that the defendant had?
I am not.
Do you also inquire as to taking a picture of, quote unquote, your history, the defendant's history? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And that's also encompassed in the audio recorded interview.
Correct.
Okay, so she's taking pictures of his
Does
history,
the defendant
which we know he has hardly any history because he just factory reset the damn thing.
ever communicate to you any limitation on what it is that you're doing?
He does not.
Does the defendant ever
The duty is not on the citizen to give limitations.
attempt, either verbally, physically, or in any type of way, to cease the search of the phone?
He does not.
These people ask their questions so slowly.
After you look at the maps, the history, what did you see? What did you notice in what you saw on the phone?
I noticed that he had mentioned that he uses Google Maps for basically everything to check locations, the time, places open and close. And I noticed that on his Google history, it was very minimal. There was not a lot of traveling that was consistent to what he had originally said to both Detective Acosta and I. So then after that, I went to his call history and I noticed that there was also not a lot of information on his call history.
And this was after you mentioned looking at his history.
Correct.
And during this entire time, did the defendant ever cease or withdraw his consent, either verbally or physically?
He does not.
So they're saying he consented. But I think that's a little...
Interaction with the cell phone. Do you keep your cell phone?
No, I do.
Where, Mr. Sterns and Detective Acosta are?
Yes.
Did anything about the circumstances surrounding this interaction with Mr. Sterns, either the location, the number of people, where people are standing, did any of that change?
No.
Was Mr. Sterns standing in a similar places than you before you left?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sterns still freely and out of handcuffs?
Yes.
At approximately 7:57, Do you again ask Mr. Sterns to unlock the phone?
Yes.
How does that happen? Explain that process.
He again enters the code and hands me the phone.
Okay, so I don't know about y'all, but if someone is looking through my phone and I open it for them and I put in the code and I hand the phone to them, that is me consenting to them going through that damn phone. If I didn't want them to go through it, I wouldn't have entered the code, right? So I think that's pretty compelling for prosecution. And y'all know I don't like the death penalty, but in this case, I'm glad Florida has one.
At some point, do you bring up the lack of call history?
I do.
What was the defendant's explanation?
He said he had accidentally factory reset his phone.
Okay, and that's not hearsay.
After your interaction with
opponent.
him, 8 p.m., 7:59, 8 p.m. on February 27th of 2024.
Correct.
So she told him she was going to keep the phone.
After this interaction with him, did you secure anything else?
No.
Other than the cell phone, did you secure anything else, or
Well, I did ask him to refrain from going back in his vehicle.
his vehicle meaning the lien?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sterns able to enter and exit Jennifer Soto's vehicle during the time between your two interviews with him?
Yes.
Was he free to walk about?
Yes.
Did you or Detective
So those questions are because the prosecution wants to show that he was not in fact detained.
Acosta remain where Mr. Sterns and Ms. Soto were?
No.
What were you doing between your two interviews?
After speaking with Stephan Sterns the first time, Detective Acosta and I went to the front of the apartment complex to speak with management and ask them to review their surveillance.
Cross-examination.
Okay. So you're in the cross of it.
So your interactions with Stephan Sterns.
This man is actually a decent attorney. The woman that's with him, she's been licensed 2 years less than me, and she's trash. Like, I looked it up. I said, I can't believe she's been a public defender since 2013. That's like 12 years of courtroom experience. I cannot believe how she functioned in the courtroom.
They were audio recorded, right?
Correct.
Okay, they weren't video recorded?
No.
Okay. And let's paint that picture. When you arrived on scene, you said that it was you and another detective present, right?
Correct.
Actually, I think it would have been 3 detectives, right? You, Acosta, and Hunt?
I was already on scene. Detective Acosta and I arrived later.
Okay, so 3 detectives now on scene.
Correct.
Okay. And then when you get to the next question, it's do you mind if I take a picture of his history, right?
Yes.
Okay, not take a picture of his lock screen?
No.
Not take a picture of his home screen?
No.
Not take a picture of his call history?
It was his history.
Not take a picture of his emails?
I did not.
Not take a picture of the entirety of his phone, just his history, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then when you get to the next thing, you say, is it okay if I go in your settings real quick? I just want to see if you're logged onto your Google, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the point the defense is making is you asked him permission every step of the way until you took the phone. And then as fruit of the poisonous tree, everything you got because you had the phone, which is they were finally able to access the Google Drive because they had the phone, everything that came from the Google Drive is fruit of the poisonous tree. For some reason, the judge is not going to make his ruling on the suppression until 3 days before the motions in limine are due and 17 days before trial starts. And I talked about that on Fox 35 Orlando yesterday. I think that's really bizarre. I don't know why it would take him that long to make this decision. I could see like a week, I could see 2 weeks even, but I don't know. That's really strange to me. Okay, so I hope that we are learning here today that grown men need to stay away from children that aren't theirs. Of course, if they're your kids, yeah. But stay away in like a linking up kind of way, right? Like it's one thing to be a mentor. It's a great thing to be an uncle. It's great. I always had wonderful like male role models in my business and at work. And I loved that. They're older than me. They helped teach me, but we never, right? And that's where oh, Chairman, by the way, I wanted to address this. Through the Stephan Sterns case, I have learned that these real sickos who they like a certain age range of child. And then when the child ages out, these men will groom the mom, groom the child, and then when the child reaches a certain age, be done with her. Disgusting.